of Federico Talks Watches. Now, as you can see, I am joined by Tim. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, Fed. Good to be here.
Well, thank you. And I figured you're a great person to have on this show because, well, you love chronographs, don't you?
I do love chronographs. As a matter of fact, I own two, and I've got to say that I'm excited to explore the topic in a format that's neither live nor dead.
Oh, there you go. And I do love chronographs as well. Well, today I figured we'd delve into the subject of 5 reasons why you probably shouldn't own a chronograph. Now, full disclosure, it doesn't really matter to me because I own a few of them anyway. But there are reasons why a non-chronograph model might suffice or hold up better than a watch with a chronograph, right?
Yeah, I'll be perfectly honest. At any given price point, whether you're just starting at buying a pre-owned watch, maybe a pre-owned Oris for a few $100s, or you're going for a grand complication, there's so much else out there that we want to open the horizons and see what alternatives look like.
Absolutely. And actually, before we get started, customary wristwatch check. Now, today I'm wearing a non-chronograph Rolex 16610 dive watch, but you're wearing something special.
That's a fact. I'm actually wearing the Master Minute Repeater because I had my dual met on right before this segment, and I couldn't very well wear a chronograph onto a wrist check show about why you don't need a chronograph. So I strapped on this watch that I was reviewing in my lightbox for a video to be posted. You know, they call it the Master Minute Repeater. They should call it the Monster Minute Repeater. It's big.
It is, but man, that really looks good on you.
This is not helpful, by the way.
I'm just saying.
It's too big.
You've got a tourbillon, you've got a calendar watch, perpetual calendar, and you just you need a minute repeater.
No, I don't.
Well, anyway, guys, let's talk about 5 or 6, rather, reasons why a chronograph might not be all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah.
And I figured I'd start.
Rock it.
The first reason I'm going to give is water resistance. Now, yes, you can get chronographs with great water resistance, like the Breitling B01 Chronomat, right, which is 500 meters.
Absolutely. I mean, on the face of it, it's rated to a great depth, but the Achilles heel.
The Achilles heel is you actually have more openings in the case, and you may forget and use the chronograph underwater, which would break the seal and let the water in.
Yeah.
But even like a Speedmaster, which is rated to 15 meters, I saw a picture on a forum that I'm a part of, actually a Facebook group, where a gentleman kind of bumped the chronograph pusher underwater by mistake, and it let water in and the whole crystal fogged up.
That's a fact, and once you've got water in the watch, greenhouse fill, it's not getting out.
Exactly. So for that reason, even though your chronograph might be rated to a great depth, it's never quite as safe or as solid as something with just less holes in the case.
And I'll throw out there that the most expensive wristwatch repair I ever saw was an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak that the guy took into the water with the chronograph pushers unscrewed, and his amazing watch became the Amazon watch. Just like that.
Oh, man.
One trip into the pool, $10,000, and 13 months later the watch returned from Audemars Piguet. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Oh man, I'd if that was me, I'd look at that watch with such disdain after that. Like I don't even want to look at it. It's just a repair bill.
It's like a Ferrari with a salvage title.
Oh. But yeah, that's my first reason. What about you, Tim?
Okay, well, I think the most basic thing to consider is that at the point of purchase, you have so many options. Now, consider the price of a Rolex Daytona. You're going to pay around $10,000. You know, I would say, all things considered, if you're going to buy one new, you're going to pay like $10,000 to $12,000 if you're buying a steel model. And the bottom line is that for that price, you could get almost anything.
You're right. You can get a lot for that price.
Yeah, and even if you're looking at the sub $5,000 price range, you're looking at a more affordable watch in the price range of like an Omega Speedmaster Professional. Consider that you could buy, you know, a pre-owned Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Perpetual in steel in the 37mm case for darn close to the price of a new Daytona, and now you've got a watch that offers a lot in terms of aesthetics, hand manufacture, history, a display case back, all of this in lieu of the Daytona for almost the same price. You know, you're buying that watch pre-owned versus the Daytona new, but still, we're talking apples to apples because these are products that are lifetime products.
Yeah.
A few years doesn't really make a difference in quality. Plus, you know, consider something like the Speedmaster Professional. Okay, let's say $5,000, $5,250 is retail on a bracelet.
Yeah.
For that kind of price, below that price, you can get many triple calendar watches.
A ton. a ton.
You can,
with chronographs as well.
Yeah, I mean, you can double up. You can get one with a chronograph at that price. You can also get annual calendars below that price.
The Ulysse Nardin annual, I think, is right around that price.
But believe it or not, you can actually go substantially lower than that and get annual calendars at that price. So we're not just talking compound complications, but then you can also get dual times. You can get pilot-style watches. You might get something that you could use more frequently. And here I'll throw out another reason why you don't want a chronograph. A simple dive watch, like what Fed's wearing, offers you the mobile bezel that you can align with the minute hand, and frankly, I don't time intervals much longer than an hour with the chronographs I have.
No, and actually, that brings me to another reason.
Yeah.
I mean, as I said, I own chronographs, but I think I like the way they look aesthetically. I think they're cool. I very rarely use them.
Yeah.
And when I do use them, it's when I'm rendering video for our show, and I'll start the chronograph just for fun to kind of see how long it takes to render out like a 1080p clip or something.
Yeah, and I got to be honest, I used to wear a chronograph on the show to time myself so I wouldn't go over the time limit. I wound up just forgetting about it and letting it run.
The truth is, there's no real use for a chronograph. There's countdown timers on the phone, there's clocks anywhere, so it's a purely romantic and aesthetically driven reason to own one, but then again, that does not make it essential by definition.
Not at all. And the other thing is with a chronograph, this is where I come in on the service side. From the pre-owned perspective, I know that if you have a modular chronograph, you're going to find that if you don't run it, it ages faster. That when you finally engage that modular chronograph, whether it's an Omega Speedy Reduced or a Royal Oak Offshore, if the module's been sitting too long, it's actually going to slow the watch down and in some extreme cases stop it if the module has been stationary for too long. Plus, here's the other thing. With every modular chronograph, you're essentially looking at a double service, the module and the base caliber. And even on a simple watch, like a Speedy Reduced, it's just an automatic with time and a chrono. You know, you're going to wind up with a double repair bill because of the double movement. And modular chronographs are everywhere again. From the top with the Royal Oak Offshores to the entry level with the Speedy Reduced on the pre-owned circuit, modular chronographs are everywhere.
Absolutely. And actually on that note, I want to talk about the movement as well.
Sure.
Now, unless you own something very special, like Tim Masso's Duomet with the double powertrain and mainsprings.
Yes.
Chronographs, kind of like superchargers on cars.
Yeah.
There's parasitic losses, right?
And unlike the supercharger, which gives it all back to you and then some, the chronograph doesn't.
Exactly. So what that means is when you're starting your chronograph, you're actually taking power from the mainspring to run it, and you lose a little bit of torque over the time where you're running it, and actually it will never be as your watch will not be as accurate telling the time on a standard chronograph movement than a watch without a chronograph.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that if you have a sedentary job, you don't get up too much, you don't move too much, and you've got a Valjoux 7750 powered chronograph, and you're leaving it running, which you shouldn't do because of lateral clutch. But let's say you're leaving it running. It might be that you don't get that watch wound enough in the course of working at your desk to keep it running through the night. So on top of everything else, frequent use of the complication could simply cause the watch to stop overnight if you're not charging it up enough, if it's an automatic. So it's not just a matter of losing time, like you say, Fed. It might be the difference between the watch stopping at night and continuing.
Exactly. And yes, there are movements that address this with longer power reserves, your Duomet with two separate drivetrains and mainsprings, but generally loss of power reserve and loss of accuracy go hand in hand with a chronograph movement.
Yeah, so basically we're talking about how you're probably not going to use it. It's going to cost you extra for service. There's so much else you can get. Again, for the price of that new Daytona, you could be buying pre-owned Blancpain 50 Fathoms and own the Cadillac of dive watches. And speaking of dive watches, that rotating bezel probably gives you all the chronograph capability you need.
Yeah, you're right. And actually on that note, though, Tim, I don't want to be a complete hypocrite because most complications we can make a case for why they're unneeded, right?
It's true.
And I have a feeling we're going to make a video series on why you don't need a triple calendar, why you don't need a moon phase, why you don't need a GMT.
I think the magic number is 2, right, Fed?
Yeah, 2.
2. I've got 2 kidneys. I've got 1 minute repeater. I can do without one of them. Am I wrong?
I mean, you're not wrong. That's flawless reasoning.
I mean, it's like a Humvee. It's got 2 gas tanks, right? If one runs out, the other takes over.
Yeah. I mean, why were you born with 2 if you only need one?
And I can make someone else so happy getting that kidney. It would it would be almost like an act of charity for me to buy this minute repeater.
Man, Tim, that makes a lot of sense, brother. I got to be honest with you.
You bet you didn't see that coming, only watch.
Kidney for minute repeater. It's a fair trade.
Yeah, exactly. I honestly, I can't hear the kidney. What good is it? The minute repeater, on the other hand, speaks to me.
There you go. And actually, on that note, fellas, we do love chronographs. We just wanted to give you a few reasons why maybe you should consider something else. Tim, I know what you're going to do, so please go ahead. There you go.
Buy it before I do, please.
And on that note, guys, thank you so much for sticking around for another episode of Federico Talks Watches. Please take a look at the links in the description below for a link to Watch You Want Watch Reviews. That is Tim's watch review channel, where you can see a ton of cool watches in the flesh, along with that beautiful JLC minute repeater.
That's a fact. You can actually see it head-to-head with the other JLC minute repeater we've got. It's a showdown.
That it is. And also take a look at our Instagram for bite-sized bits of watch entertainment if you don't have time to watch a video. And on that note, thank you for watching another episode of Federico Talks Watches, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Thanks for logging on.
Take care.